Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a stopwatch in MATLAB App Designer. This is basically what we are going to create. So whenever I click on the start button, the timer starts to count, and if I click on the stop button, the timer stops. If I continue, it continues from the previous number, and if I stop it, again it stops. Now if I reset it, it becomes 0. Now, in the previous video, I described how to create this initial text using a startup function and also how to create interaction between the buttons such that when you click on this, the name of them changes and so on. So I'm not going to explain those things in detail again. I will use that knowledge, but we will see how to basically implement the timing calculation. Okay, so first thing that we have to notice is that in MATLAB, we have a command that is named clock. So if you type clock in MATLAB, basically what we get is that we get the date and also we get the time. So now if I type C is equal to clock, then the sixth component of C is the second, and the fifth one is basically the minutes. I'm going to use seconds and minutes to calculate basically the timing and to use it in my stopwatch. Okay, so let us look at the mathematics. Let's assume that user click on the start button, and what we want to do is that from this moment we want to calculate total number of seconds that has passed since the user click on that start button. Okay, so now let us assume that at that moment the minute and we have a second. So let's say the minute is 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Okay, so what we can do, we can make a while loop after this that basically continuously read the clock, and then we compare it with this initial number. So let's say after a few seconds, 2. Let's say 53, we read the clock again. So in this case, obviously, the total number of seconds that has passed is only 3 seconds. So in order to get the 3 seconds, what we can do easily, we can basically say S2 minus S1, which is 53 minus 50, gives me 3 seconds. And that 3 seconds, I can basically show it in the display. Okay, so this is good, but then time will pass, so 258, and in this case, for example, S3 minus S1 will be 58 minus 50. This gives me 8 seconds. So basically now I have to show 8 in the display, and I'm going to show 8 here, for example. Okay, but what happens is that time will pass again, and then we get to the point where we have 3 seconds and 3 minutes and 1 second. Now, obviously, in this case, if I subtract S4 minus S1, this is basically 1 minus 50. So this is obviously not correct, because from this moment to here, 11 seconds has passed. But because the minute is now here changed from 2 to 3, actually that minute is equivalent to 60 seconds. So what I have to do is to plus that 60 seconds, which gives me exactly 11 seconds. So in this case, basically, I can also show 11 seconds here. Okay, so this is basically what I have to do. So I have to detect, at this point, I have to detect the change of the minute. So whenever the minute changes, I have to add a 60 to this number. But let's see, okay, so we continue. For example, we are 3.5 seconds. So in this case, we have S5 minus S1. This is 5 minus 50. Still, obviously, I have to add that 60, which gives me basically 15 seconds, which is correct again. So we can basically show it here, 15 seconds. Now you see that whenever we change the minute, we add a 60, but then after that we have to keep this 60. So let us introduce a timer here, a counter. Let's say M minute is 0 at beginning, and then as soon as there is a change, so we increase the M. We say M plus 1. So this is now 1. So actually, instead of putting 60 here, maybe we can add it plus 60 multiply M. So in this case, M is 1. So it gives me 60. I should maybe write this one properly because this is not visible now. All right. So M m is m plus 1, which in this case will be 1. Now let's say the time goes on and then we reach to basically 3.59 and then we reach to 4. For example, 02. So obviously we have, so here we have 359 and then there is another change here. So let's say this is whatever S6 minus S1. Again, we say, okay, 0.2 minus 50. This one minus the original one. Plus, here we have another change. So we had one change before, we have another change. So M here will be again, M is basically M plus 1, which will be 2. So this should be plus 60 multiplied 2, which is 120 seconds is this one, minus 50 gives us 70, so this is 72 seconds. And then if we basically calculate this, obviously is correct because from 4 minutes, let's say to 3 minutes is already 60 seconds, and this is 10, this is 2, 12, 72 seconds. Okay, so this is basically the mathematics, how we have to calculate the total amount of time since the user pressed the start button. After we calculate the total amount of time, we can actually convert that into the second, minute, and hour, and then show it on the stopwatch. So let's see how to do this. Okay, so let me open Matlab App Designer and we see what we can do. We add a text edit field, delete this name, that's good. Let us disable resizing and let me change the name of these buttons to start and stop. I also give different color to these. Start with green and the other one with another color. Okay, so now we go to code view. So first we create a startup function. Basically, let us give an initial value to the stopwatch, and we use this string. And also we can use a bit larger font to be more visible. Alright, and then I introduce a global parameter. So this one at beginning, let's assign a equal to 0. Alright, so now what we are going to do, we're going to create a callback for start button, and we have to write our program here. So let me zoom in, if I can zoom in on this. Yes. So at beginning, let us read the clock. So this C has basically information of minutes and seconds and other information. Also we define a counter equal to 0, and let's say the total number of seconds is equal also to 0. So we write a while loop. So far that a is equal to 0, this loop continues. And now what we are going to do, first we are going to read the clock again. Maybe I have to add this one. And in case this new read, the minutes of the new clock read is different than the minute of the original read, then we have to do something. So s dot will be equal to C16, so the seconds minus the original second, okay, plus 60, because the minute has changed here. So in this case, the counter has to also increase, and also we have to change the minute of the original read. So C5 should be equal to C15. Alright, so else, if this is not the case, then what we have to do is basically we have similar thing, but then in this case this has to be multiplied by m. Okay, So then we close the end, and also we have an end for while loop. But then inside while loop, we have to actually print on the text box. So app dot edit field dot value. I can give this one num2 string, basically the total value of the seconds. We need to use num2 string because this only accepts a string. Okay, so let me maybe also here when we enter to this when the start button is pushed, let us set the at this moment I set this one 0. Yeah, zoom out. Okay, but then if I want to stop it, so let me create a callback for stop button, and then in this case what I'm going to do is to basically I'm going to give this one 1. So whenever the stop button is pressed, basically A becomes 1, and so this condition of the while loop will be violated, and so it should stop, hopefully. If everything is good, then we must be able to see the numbers, but let's see what we get. Okay, so far we have nothing. Oh, let me stop it, because I think we need to add a pause here, because otherwise it's so fast that it cannot print it. Okay, so now I have it here, and we can see that the number of seconds is shown here, and if I stop it, it stops. If I start it, it starts from 0, obviously, because it enters to this loop and the parameters are all 0. Okay, so here I have the total number of seconds, but I want to show it in the format of hour, minute, and second. So let us do that first. So maybe I zoom in again. So here, let us define a parameter, let's say A1. This one holds the number of hours, so you have to write floor of the total number of seconds divided by 3,600. This is simple, and then maybe A2. This one keeps the minute, so it should be floor as total minus the hours multiply 3,600, and of course the total of this number has to be divided by 60. And we have semicolon, and then obviously the third one, which holds the second. This one will be s dot minus a1 multiply 3,600 minus a2 multiply 60. Okay, so now we have basically these two. I mean, this should be before when we print it. So this I should cut it actually, and I have to put it here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to print the total. I'm going to make another one and disable. I will disable it later when I zoom out. So here we have to create, I have to put these strings together. So the first one would be A1, and then I add semicolon, and then the same thing. So here would be A3, this would be A2. So this one, num2 string, why this one is red? No, it's good. So basically now I have the hour, and then there is semicolon, minute, and second. Let me zoom out, and then I can disable this one. Okay, so if we run this one right now, let's see what we get. So in this case, you see that we have the seconds here, and then the minute is in middle, and then the hour is here. But I wanted to have 2 0 here, not 1 0. So let us see how to fix that. Basically, in this case, instead of putting the value there, maybe we have to print it. So I don't want this. So I can print actually, so 0 2 and then semicolon, 0 2 dot. But for seconds, I want 2 digits after the 0, so I keep 2 digits there. And I put also F here, then this one. We have A1, A2, A3. Okay, so now in this case, we can actually print those extra zeros. So let me comment this, I zoom out. Now if we run this one, let's see what do we get. Okay, so you see that now we have 2 0 and the second is here. Now wait a little bit until it moves to minute and we can see how it operates. Okay, so now we can see that it moves to the minute, and basically we have 1 minute here and 13 seconds and so on. So if I stop it, then it should actually stop. Now my computer is very slow actually. Okay, if I reset it, then it resets, and if I stop it, it stops. Okay, so this is good. We want to have another functionality, and that is if I stop it, I want to be able to, when I click on start again, basically I want to continue from the previous number. And also I want to be able to restart this directly, not that when I click on the start itself it goes from 0. I want to see 0 first and then click on the start. So then I'm going to use some of the lines that I did in the previous video, and I directly use them. So I will open that file first, and then I'm going to directly use those lines. Okay, so now I'm going to open the previous file and copy a few commands. Already written those commands before. So first is here. Now let us see what I want to do. Here we have the start button. Um, Okay, so I click here, but when I click on the stop button, what I want is that not only this stops, but also I want the name of these two buttons changes. So as soon as I click on stop, I want this one to be continue and this one becomes restart. So I'm going to change the name of them. When we click on stop button, basically we need these two lines. So the text, the name of the text will be continue, and the start becomes continue and the stop will be restart. So now let's see what do we have here. Okay, so now if I click on start, it starts. If I click on stop, you see that the names will change. But if I click on continue, here it starts from 0 again because we have to fix it. But the important thing is that when we click at the first time, it worked actually. So let's see. When this one is restart, when I click on restart, I want everything to really restart, and the name also changes. So this one should be stop, this one should be start again. So this one also we have done it before. So this a few commands here which we have to do. And that basically is here. So what we do is that we are going to compare the stop button with the string of restart. If that the name of the text of the start button is restart, basically we enter through this if, and then we set the value of the edit field to 000, and then we also change the text of the buttons. So the name of the text of the start button will be a start, and the text of the stop button will be a stop. And then we actually stop the complete function. We go out of the function. So now let us see what we have here. Okay, zoom in. So I can start, that's good. I click on stop, the name changes. Now if I click on restart, actually everything restarts and then we go back to the original case. So now if I click on start, it starts, stop, okay, restart, this is good. If I click on stop, here there is something else that we have to do, because if I click continue right now, I want it continues from 1.65, but it continues from 0 because it restarts itself. So let us see how to fix this. So in this case, we have to go back to the start button. So when we have this one, and basically it has a number here, and then at this moment the user click on stop, so we have certain thing here. What we have to do is actually to read this number. We have to read this number and convert it in total second, and basically add to this original total number of seconds. So here we put total number of seconds 0, but actually we have to add it to this original number. Okay, so let's see how to do that. Alright, so in order to calculate the total number of seconds, basically we have a format like this. Maybe it's, for example, 18, I don't know, 23 seconds, 52 seconds, 23 minutes, 52 seconds, 36. So what we want to do, we will start to read from this side. Whenever we reach to the semicolon, basically we stop reading and we say that this part is the number of hour, this part is number of minute, and this is the number of second. And then we can combine these two together, like basically multiply the hours with 3600, and then minute with 60 plus the seconds, so it gives us the total number of seconds. Okay, so let's see how to do this. First, we are going to define app.edit field dot value. Okay. Now let me define h is equal to 0. So I write a for loop for I equal to 1 to the size of that string. If the comparison between the ith character, if that is true, then we want to break this loop. Otherwise, basically the string would be, so we actually add the other number to the string of hour. So let's see what does this give us. So basically in this case I have calculated all the part that is related to hour. Okay, so you see that this gives us 0. If I stop it again, it gives me 0. Okay, so now I can make similar thing for the minute and also for the second. So here I have to start from I plus 1, and this would be minute, and this is also minute, and the same we have for the second. Here it will be second, and this one is second. Alright, so now what do we have? Basically, let me see if we print hour, minute, and second. What do we get? So we run this, everything at beginning is 0, but if I stop it and if I run it again, of course hour and minute they are 0, but second it has that value. Alright, so this is good. I don't need to see this one. So now I'm going to convert that value into the equivalent second. Basically I say the number of second initial will be so from a string to num, hour multiplied by 3600 plus minute multiplied to 60 plus second. This should be plus. Okay, so let us see this one. So if I run it again. Okay, at beginning everything is 0. If I stop it here and if I click on it again, this should give me the value of the second. Alright, so this is good. Now basically what we have done so far is that we read this number. So this is very good. At beginning obviously everything is 0, so the number will be 0, but if we stop it somewhere and then we want to continue, basically we can read this initial number. Alright. Let me define this initial value here. So this one is originally equal to 0. I want to do all these calculations only if the name of the start button is continue. Only in this case I want to read it. Otherwise, let's say if we are at beginning, basically we don't need to go through this part because the initial value will be 0. However, when we are in the continue mode, let's say we are running it and then we stop it, so now we can either continue or restart. In this case I want to read it. So this reading basically has to happen only if, so I write a str, so the comparison between app.text, if this one is equal to continue, if the name of the start button is equal to continue, basically we want to go through these and we calculate this initial value of the time. Otherwise, basically the initial value is 0. Alright, so now what we want to do is that, so now that initial value, before we want to print it, so let us add it here. Basically as told, here I will actually, okay, so the original, the value that we calculate plus that initial value, and this basically we print this one. So every loop basically as told will be calculated and then at the end will be added to that initial value. Okay, so let us see what do we get now. We start, basically the timer starts to count, we stop it, so it stops. If we click continue, basically it starts from that point. Okay, so when I click continue, I also want the name of these to change. So actually I can use this command basically. Now we come here, basically at the end that we calculate the initial, basically I want to change the name of the start button to become the start and the stop button to become the stop. Okay, so let us see what happens now. So we click on start, let's say it continues. We click on stop, it stops. Restart, it restarts. Okay, that's good. We click on start, it goes on. We stop it. So now if I click on continue, basically it goes on, but then actually the name of these buttons will be also changed, so to start and stop, which I can again stop it, so I can continue, I can stop it, I can restart it. So this is basically, we suddenly get to the end of the to the end of the coding. That was nice. I thought that maybe I had to do some more things, but okay, so this is basically the simple way to make a stopwatch. Let me zoom in and play with it a bit. So okay, so this goes stop, restart, that's good, start, stop, continue. Okay, so my happiness didn't last very long because I realized that of course if I start, stop, restart, everything is good, but if we are in this state and then if I click on stop, the name of these buttons changes, and that is not what we want. So I have to do a bit of modification. Actually, I want this stop to work only if the start is already activated. So maybe here I should put an if function. So if app.a is equal to 0, which means the start is already activated, then it should work. So for example, in this case, if we start, stop, restart, and then if I press, nothing happens. Okay, so this is good. Stop, restart, start, stop, continue, stop, continue, stop, restart, stop, nothing happens. uh, but if I relaunch it, maybe there are some because at beginning, I think in the startup I have to change this value. Maybe in the startup I change this value to 1, because then when it enters through here, basically at this point I set it to 0. Okay, so that, I think this is good. So let us launch it again. Okay, so now this is right after the startup, so nothing changes when I click on stop, but if I click on start, it works. Stop, continue, stop, restart, and stop doesn't work, and that's perfect. Okay, so this is good. One last thing that I have noticed is that the amount of pause that we put in this code is too small. We put 1 millisecond, maybe we can increase it to 10 millisecond. That basically helps the program to run smoother. So let us do the final check. So start, everything runs properly. Stop, restart, that's good. Start again. So now I'm going to wait for 1 minute and see how does the program perform. Okay, so now we are very close to 1 minute, and we will see that yes, basically we have 1 minute, and now if I stop it, basically the program stops. Now I think because I zoom in on this computer, the computer is very slow. So if I do it right now, basically it goes like this. You see that it doesn't perform properly. That's, I think, because of my computer is super slow right now. So if I stop it, then if I continue, and if I stop it, continue, and it works. So whenever I zoom in, actually the computer becomes so slow that it cannot perform properly. That's a little bit weird. Okay, anyway, here is the end of this video, and I hope that it's useful for someone. Okay, bye.